Okay, one thing that you have to do, uh, today we are heading towards the second last topic, almost second last topic of your the course, and this is really important. Please, guys, listen it carefully and clarify your ambiguities, because on this topic, your one of the major assignment is based on. So do it very like carefully. If you will have any question, raise your hand at right that moment. Okay, let's start with the first one. The top name of the topic that we are going to do is about how to write down a review on an article. Articles, I'm sure you know that how to do research based things, on which we have gathered some data and we have concluded something, and then to present it in a form of article. They are in a published form as well. So these are the articles. To write down your point of view on that, that means we are going to write down a review on the articles on those research papers. So when we are going to write down a review on an article, before that, you are actually what doing? You are making evaluation or you are making judgment. Your point of view depends on your evaluation or your judgment. So that means you are going to define either the text is full of everything, it is having the most powerful point to describe, it has explained everything that a research should have, and it is perfectly proved one, perfectly concluded one, or the written statements that are mentioned into the article, these are having some kind of uh, gaps are there, or the writer has not presented the research well. So what type of weaknesses and strengths are there, you have to talk about it. Then if we are writing a review, sometimes we need to write down not just only it in a very simple way, but we have to make it at a critical critical point of view we have to write down on it, or critically we have to analyze it, and a critical review we have to write down on it. Then what it means when we talk about critical, we always think about that it means criticizing something. But whenever I talk to you guys, I always talk to you, even when we were doing letter writing, and at one moment, if you can remember, I told you guys that critical doesn't mean that you are never try to criticize someone directly or in a bad way, in a negative manner. So this is the same thing. Critical doesn't mean that we are going to criticize someone in a negative way. Obviously, if a person has done some kind of research and he has proved something or she has proved something, so that doesn't mean that the person is making it in a very bad way. That is not, and even if on the one hand it is published one, there can be some points that the writer has left, but don't criticize it in a negative way or directly to someone. So then what it requires, it means we need to put a question in front of that. In our review, we have to write down a question that is based on our point of view, our judgment, that this is the information, this is the point of view that I have talked about, that I have like gathered from the information that is presented in the text, and this is what the things are not found, maybe, or these are the things that should be addressed into this research writing. So this is the way to write down a critical writing, but not uh, but it doesn't mean that you are going to directly say that this text doesn't have provided following information that is really important and that is really necessary. No, it's not a way. So to do this in a very good way, you need to understand first the topic, and then uh, if you have made some point of views and you have your own perspectives, you need to prove that perspective with some other text. Like if you have read an article on fashion, fashion in Bollywood movies, for example, if this is a topic. So there the person has no, presented everything, but not the type of not a one criteria that should be needed. So what the writer has left it, you have to give some example related to it, and then you have to state your point of view or your perception, your perspective about it. Then we this is about critical, how to make a review critical review. And critical review always question about something that is not there. Then when we talk about article review means you are going to check by writing this review that you have developed a complete understanding about that very article, whatever the things are explained into it. And have you learned something new from the articles that hit your interest? So this is when you are writing all this in a form of a summary, that means you are going to write down a article review. I will show you sample of article, and obviously you have to do activity on it. Then a question arises, why we need to write down an article, a review on it. Listen, a review means that it's based on a very easy way when you are going to let others know about it, that if you have whatever you have, if you have watched a movie or you have watched a TV program or even you have read a book or even you have read an article, you have liked it. And these presents short descriptions about it, what you find in that. And there you express your point of view, I told you, and your recommendations, what we can do further into it for the improvement. And critical and review writing is always in the present tense. Remember this thing, because you are writing at that very moment, and it's not about that you are writing uh, you are defining a story. It's not a story that you are defining that happened in the past. You are writing some point of views, your understanding that you have developed by reading from it. So that's why you have to use present tense into it. Then when we talk about review writing, then we need to know that how we have to structure that review, how we need to write it down. Obviously there must be a pattern we have to follow. So the pattern, if you can see the slide, the first point is we have to write down first the introduction, that what this article is about. Then we are going to state the summary of that. Then content. Content means your review, your point of view. And then at the very end, conclusion, in the form of if you have learned something, what is interesting into it. So all these you have to write down. Then we need some parts of a review. So there we start with the introduction. When we start with the introduction, we say that it means we are going to summarize that information that is presented in the article. If you will see the slide, on the slide is given book, film or TV. You can replace it with the article as well. I haven't mentioned here article. I should, you can remember it, I will mention here article as well. So that means you are summarizing that information which is related to the article. Now, introduction is including what? Summarization. If information is there, what type of information? Information that who has written that uh, that article. What is the name of the author? Then you have to write down the article's title, that what name of that article is, what type of that article is. Like for example, right now I discussed about you uh, fashion representation in the Bollywood movies. So you can give that what type of it is. Then like some articles are based on adventures, some are based on uh, today's life, some articles are based on education, some articles are based on business. So similarly you have to define the type of that article. Then article setting means that what type of data is collected from the article, who were the participants who were added into it. As I have defined you here, so we are taking Bollywood films. These are the settings of the data. How many Bollywood films that are taken for this research? So 3 to 10 or 12 or 15. So you have to also mention this into the introduction. And this should be into 2 or 3 lines, not more than that, because you are just summarizing something. So your review of article must be based on one paragraph. uh, you can say it can be, it depends on the it depends also on the length of your article. If your article is only 4 pages based, you don't need to write down it more than like you can say 7 lines. 5 to 7 lines are enough, or you can say 7 to 10 lines are more than enough to write it down. But if your article is based on 11 pages or 12 pages, so you can write down 15 lines, you can say. And some articles are based on so many pages, so depends how you are going to make it. But your introduction, it should be 2 to 3 lines, that are more than enough. Then we have to talk about review writing. Like now we are putting the uh, our own point of view. So there what we do, review means you are reviewing it. Review based, if you can see the review word, that means you are viewing it again. Somebody has viewed it before you and now you are reviewing it. So there what you are going to do, it's a balanced discussion. Like it doesn't mean your review is only based on someone's positive points. It doesn't mean it is just going to define the positive aspects of the articles or only the good things about the articles. Balanced content, balanced discussion, or balanced judgment is always be based on, if you have something in a positive way, then there must be something that is not given into it. Some features of the text that are not defined but you have noticed that they should be more powerful. So that means your review should be based on strength and weaknesses both. And it while writing the review, we should keep in mind that it is not about that we are writing what the writer has written into the article. We are writing that what we have taken, or what our discussion on that very specific criteria. Then good reviews also include like other sources. If I'm asking you to write down on this, you are going to find out so many other articles that are related to presentation of fashion into the movies. So you can quote those to support your judgment. What points you have collected, to support those points, you have not just talking in the air, you can say. You are not just making sentences, but you are proving with some other references as well. So there you are going to do it. In this way you are going to write down review. Then when we talk about again about the introduction, as I have talked to you, that these are basically you have to mention into the very start of the writing of the review. So that's why they are called opening sentences that announce about the author's name and the title and topic of the text. So then we have to move, and also in introduction you have to write down that why author has written that text, what his point of view, what his aim, what his goal into it. So write down that as well. Then summary includes uh, all the key points. All the key points means important points you of the article you are mentioning here, and you are not only just mentioning but giving the example of that. Like for example, if you are saying that in writing down a name of the Bollywood movie, and then you are talking about this type of fashion is represented into the movie, so in this way you are going to write down the point of views, sorry, summary of that in a key points. Then you can also not just talk about that what your point of view is that about that, but what is the author's intention about that. In that text, what author has defined, you have to you have to talk about that as well. uh, Review, when we talk about review, it should be balanced. There we need to keep on focus on one thing as well. Like not only you are just talking about all the time what you have seen, what you have observed, what is your perspective about it, but author's intention also should be there. You have to write down the author's intentions into it. If you will do it like with your point of views, you are going to write down author's purpose of writing that text, then you are going to write down a well organized type of review. Got it? Then next is then the next is if we talk about like into the article review, we have to write down critique. So if your critiques are more positive, your point of views or your perspective, the points that you have collected from the understanding of that article, if they are more positive than negative, so that means you have to first write down the negative one, so that the gap that the writer has given into the writing, you have mentioned that. Then then you are going to write down all the positive points till the end of that. Clear? It only in a case when you have more positive than negative. If you have more negative, then don't try to hit first with the positives. Then you have to go for the positive first and then negative if you have more negatives. So that for example, it's like that. If you met a person and the person have asked about some, the person is holding a cloth, any dress a person is holding and asking you that tell me how's this dress, and you found so many negative points into it and very few positive, and you are starting with the very start, you are going to talk about this dress is not having this type of thing, this dress is lacking in the colors, this dress is not up to date, this dress is this and that. So that person is going to get a heart failure, heart attack. Similarly, for the article review is researchers always put so much efforts into their writing, and that means you are directly criticizing someone with not like appreciation. So if negativities are more there, then you need to try first positive, so that the person who is going to read the point of view, your point of view, they are going to get an idea first that okay, fine, something good is there. So that's why, so make it accordingly. You could begin by stating what is good about the idea, and then you can concede it and explain it, that how it is limited. Like for example, if someone has just hit the fashion of Bollywood, fashion representation of in the Bollywood movies, so that means limitation in that article is what, that the author has only collected the data from the Bollywood movies, not the Hollywood, not the Lollywood. So they, that is a limitation into the research. So you have to also explain that as well. And that will also show that you have a mixed evaluation you have made, even if you are more negative than positive. Then when we talk about how to write down an article review, that means first we discuss the structure of the article. Now we need to arrange the words, that what type of how we need to start it. The first one is read the article. First we need to read completely the article, then we need to reread it. Rereading requires, first when you read it, you just got the idea that what is the article, basically what author has written into it. Then when you are going to reread it, here you are going to collect the points, so you can highlight those points, those important ideas that you wanted to mention into your review, or that you consider that you can add, and circle the key terms. Some key terms are used into the in that article. For example, like what can I say, uh, if you will say like yes, the same uh, fashion in Bollywood movies. So Bollywood movies, what Bollywood movies are there, you can encircle all the movies name. Then you can encircle the fashion types that writer has mentioned into it, all the important points about the data, then the discussion that is made on it, how the writer has analyzed it. In analysis there are some important lines, you can encircle them as well. So you can divide your article into the stages of the points and uh, key terms. Then this is the same, as we have an essay, and we are just going to collect the important points from each paragraph. Similarly, you have to go for the articles. If your article is short, then write down then sorry then you have to collect important points from each paragraph. Now we are going to, after this this is the one way. Then what we have to do, we have to scan the text. We have done skimming and scanning. The same way we have to do, we have to scan the text, and we have to look for the information that can be deduced from the introduction, conclusion, and the title and the headings. What information is concluded, how it is generalized to all the community, and how it is specified. So you have to collect these points. Then you can go for the topic sentence. What basically main points are given there? What is the opening sentences of that very article? So you can go for it to like to support your point of views. You can go for examples and evidences that are given into the article. So with that, you can develop a critique in your writing. Then when you are going to develop a critique, you have to now arrange your words. And arranging your words, you are going to write down in a complete sentences. You have collected first the chunks from each statement or the paragraphs. All the important points you have collected. Now you have to make a proper paragraph for the review writing. So now arrange your words, arrange your sentences, and start writing into it. Use reporting words and phrases like the author has described, he argues. In this way you have to write down. And if there are some important words that have writer has mentioned in the form of phrase, so use quotation marks for that. Now if we say that we need to write down our review writing, then what is the purpose of writing that review? The purpose of writing that review is not just to review the point of views that author has mentioned, but also what you have evaluated from the text. Sometimes it happens reading someone's article give you a when we talk about like there is limitations are there, so you after finding out that limitation, you can also write down another article in which you are going to fill that limitation. You are just going to fill that gap. So for this purpose you can also write down. Sometimes um you need to give your point of views so that the text that is there, it requires some more research, it requires some more effort, or something more to do with it. So the related texts you can also present and you can evaluate them as well. That's all. This is all about your article review. Let me to unmute you all and then we'll have discussion. If you will have any question related to it, we still have 10 minutes, so we can do it. You guys can submit this article to me next Monday, review of this article. So you have 1 week to complete this assignment. Got it?